Let's get this party started, shall we? Welcome back, everyone, to Metroid Prime 3, the finale of the Metroid Prime series, until Metroid Prime 4 releases. This is going to be the final episode of Metroid Prime, as I said, until Metroid Prime 4 releases. And I am super hyped for everything that we're doing here. I already booted up the game, and we will just instantly play through the final mission. And yeah, I have a video booted up about Metroid Prime Hunters. We're probably not going to end up watching all of it. The most thing I'm interested in is the story. It is kind of a overview of Metroid Prime Hunters, but it covers the story as well. We're going to probably watch that part. But I want to know about Metroid Prime Hunters before we move into Metroid Prime 4, obviously. The video is 50 minutes long, but as I said, it's not going to be full. Not going to be a full reaction. We're not going to react to the entire thing. Especially when it comes to gameplay, I'm going to skim some of it only, you know. So yeah, let us go over here. Hello, Retro Studios. Metroid Prime Trilogy. Pirate Homeworlds, 100%. We finished the game 100% yesterday. Well, we got everything, but we didn't finish it. We didn't beat it. But we got all 100%. Pirate Homeworld. Let's see if I can do this. I haven't played like the final mission in probably over 10 years of this game. Been a while. Yeah, I know, I have to board the Leviathan battleship. Yeah, it's okay. God damn it. Yeah, we also went through the entire story at the end of last stream, which was fun. We got the pirate data and we went like over all of the story beats that all of the things that happened in the Metroid Prime series. I think at the end I did a little bit of a summary of everything that happened in the Metroid Prime series up until where we are currently at, and it all makes cohesive sense with this entry, honestly. Alright. But we should be through here, and then we should be on the Leviathan. Pretty cool, I have to say. I still know that Phaaze is hardcore. As a final dungeon, or a final planet, Phaaze was always pretty hard. I don't know how hard, since I don't think I ever got here with 100%. I think on my first playthrough, I never had 100%, you know? But yeah, Okay. Objective completed.
Samus, we have gained control of the Leviathan. Now we'll be able to open a wormhole and warp to Phaaze. It's time to end this. Once you rendezvous with the fleet, we'll head straight into the belly of the beast. I look forward to fighting alongside you again, Samus. Godspeed.
It's actually fire. He said, it's an honor to fight beside you again, which means that they have fought beside... Samus has fought beside the Federation for a while. And Samus has such an interesting story too. Like, her whole thing of basically her world being attacked by space pirates and Ridley, to then being like fostered by the Chozo and getting her power suit, to then reunite back with humanity. Like, she was basically fostered by the Chozo, right? As a foster child. And literally, like, she reunited with the Federation. So she went back and thought, hey, how can I reunite with humanity?
Take heed, Samus. Once you join the fleet and the wormhole to Phaaze is opened, there is no turning back. Please be sure to prepare yourself. We wish you the best of luck.
And even like enlist in the army. Like, from what we know of Other M, obviously people are claiming Other M is not like canon, but we know that she... Not many people would say that Metroid Fusion is not canon. You know. So I 100% think that she was in the army of the Federation. She enlisted in the Federation army and Federation troops to then basically becoming an independent hunter, bounty hunter. There's such a good story behind this, but the problem is they will never ever really touch on the backstory, obviously. I think Metroid Dread touches a little bit on it, a tiny smidgen, and I love that about Metroid Dread, but the rest... The rest of the games won't ever touch on it. Really. Alright, here we go. So let's meet up with the Federation.
Sir, Samus' ship has joined the fleet.
Thank you, Ensign. Leviathan Command, you are clear to fire the portal beam. Once the wormhole is open, order all ships to enter.
Affirmative, Admiral. Message to all ships. Prepare for entry. Maintain battle formation timeless.
Alright. Let's go in there. Let's bring the fight to them, shall we? There it is. So yeah, Samus is moving into Phaaze. So. Okay, here we are at Phaaze. Press A to vent energy tanks. Due to critical levels of internal Phazon corruption, the emergency vent override has been triggered by the PD suit. All acquired energy tanks have been vented to temporarily prevent total corruption. Hypermode weapons no longer require the extinguishing of an energy tank to use. You are now permanently in hyper mode. Unfortunately, this vent override can no longer be used. Damage, as well as exposure to Phaze's atmosphere, will continue to raise your Phazon level. Your Phazon level is shown as a yellow bar at the top of the HUD. If your Phazon level fills completely, you will die. Alright. But yeah, we need to unload the Phazon in our body as much as possible. You know? During this. And we need to watch our Phazon levels. Our energy tanks absolutely do not matter at all. And we need to move quickly for this. Oh. That's why Phaaze is so ridiculously hard too. Is because your Phazon levels just keep rising the entire time. So you need to move rather quickly through it. While also all right. Use the hyper ball to get all of these down. Here we go. Yeah, okay. We just fell. This Phase on Metroid. actually have nothing on us, really. God damn it. Where are we? Where do I need to go? Oh, over here. Right. Okay. 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 This area is relentless, I have to say, like. And these enemies around here are also definitely capable of hypercharging your Phazon levels too, if you stay in them long enough, you know. But I think we're almost there. Alright. Alright. Through we go. No, no. Phaaze is a very eerie planet, and I think it's the perfect, like, finale. Like, something that's hyper stressful to your mission. Like, this is hyper stressful, I might add, you know? Because you need to manage your Phazon levels at every point. Alright. You shouldn't get hit too many times to manage your Phazon level, and you need to rapid fire quite a bit of Phazon out every time. You know? What is this? Damage it to loosen its grip. Ouch. Metroids. What is this? Serpentine organ serves as a Leviathan womb. Tissue on the sides looks like it could be torn off. God damn it. I think it moved to the other side. Come on. Please die. Let's move to the other side again, I think. Do I need to do something special with it? God damn. Oh my god! Oh god. These fucking Metroids all the time. There we go. Let's jump down. Pretty sure there's no save station here, so... Once you enter Phaaze, you cannot escape. Hello, Dark Samus. This time I also wield Phazon, by the way. Morphology Dark Samus, Phazon-based energy-based entity, disrupted by hypermode attacks. Dark Samus is absorbing energy from Phaaze itself to replenish her own. That is always such a cool effect. That has always been such a cool effect too. But which one's the real one? This one's the real one, right? Yeah. Come on, Dark Sammy. All right. There's the Aurora units. Morphology, Aurora units 313. Hatch on its head protects core. Damage core to sever cables. What do we do now? Has been temporarily stunned. Hatch on its head can be pulled open. Come on. There we go. Come on. Rip open already. Okay. Aurora unit head. Morphology, Aurora unit 313. Severed cable has exposed a weak point that is vulnerable to attack. Alright. Okay, that stuns her. Okay. Easy. All right. Ouch. Can I just stay behind her all the time? Alright. Ouch. Well, there's Dark Samus. Did we do it? I think we did it. And the Phazon in Samus is gone.
Sir, we have confirmed unstable energy spikes in multiple locations on the planet. It's a chain reaction. It's accelerating. The planet's going to explode!
Order the fleet to disengage and prepare to retreat. Activate the Leviathan's warp field. Get us out of here.
We should definitely get out of here. Honestly, in my memory, that boss fight was harder. But that's okay. I mean, that was enough to kill the planet Phaaze, it seems. Well,
Damage reports coming in. We've lost 37% of the fleet. Half of the surviving ships are reporting heavy casualties.
Sir, we've confirmed the wormhole has disappeared. All the Leviathans are gone. The crisis is over.
What about Samus?
Negative, sir. No contact.
there we are.
Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Samus's ship.
I hope we're getting good pay out of this. I swear. Honestly? Oh. This is interesting. Going to Elysia, huh? Reminiscing about the other hunters too. Yeah. We did get the special ending, though, you know. We finished 100%. One thing I would have loved here is an escape sequence, honestly. Like, one more escape sequence from Phaaze would have been great. Obviously, you know, they wanted to make it so that we dive deep into Phaaze, but they could have probably made it so that we circle around another way or something to the top and to the ship. But I would have loved another escape sequence, you know? And the boss fight was nothing special, I would say. Having the Aurora Unit as the boss is pretty good. The thing I'm wondering is, why did that explode Phaaze, honestly? Phaaze was doing fine before Dark Samus and the Aurora Unit came, right? So why did killing the Aurora Unit and Dark Samus destroy Phaaze? I don't know. We can leave up to interpretation. By the way, I always love this intro music. This is the music of the intro to the game. Musically, they've done a good job. I have to say, from the whole trilogy, the second game is still my favorite. The light and dark mechanics in the second game carry it a lot. There are parts of the second game that I don't like as much. But I would say this game is a little bit too linear. You know, like, we didn't even have to go out of our way so much to get 100%.
Phase. Samus Aran's arduous fight against Phazon has ended. However, in the vast regions of space, this victory is just a twinkle of a star, spreading the light of hope through the darkness.
So yeah, with the planet Phaaze gone, all of the Phazon is gone too. Pretty sure that's how it works, right? We saw it with Samus when she was losing, like, the Phazon core inside of her, you know? I think most of the Phazon is gone. Although, I don't know if the Phazon that affected the other planets will be gone too, immediately, like this. Finger snipping away it, or if it's still here, but, you know. But yeah. It's interesting, you know. Definitely interesting. But yeah, this game is obviously way too linear. That's generally the problem. I would have loved exploring several planets if the planets were fully fleshed out like they were with Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Prime 2. Obviously, they couldn't do that, obviously. But, you know, it was fun. It was a fun experience. For streaming, absolutely perfect experience, I would say. Because if it's that linear, you're not wandering around aimlessly at all, you know. You're just not wandering around aimlessly, and that's a good thing. But in terms of game design, I like the first two games more than this one. Story-wise, I like this one a lot because it puts a nice bow on the whole Phazon arc that were hinted at in Metroid Prime 1 and Metroid Prime 2. They kind of bind it back together into this whole story about the Space Pirates and Dark Samus. And I think this game needed to happen in order to ramp up the Phazon arc, in order to put a nice ending to the Phazon arc, because it's that important to the game, you know? Samus getting to finally chill is also it's also fun, you know. Like I always wonder what does Samus do when she's just doing nothing. What is that? Who is following Samus here? Mission final. Under 10 hours to complete it. 100%. I think this game needed to happen. And I'm glad it did happen the way it did. Because it would have been weird if she just... Obviously, it would have worked if she just, like, explored a different planet. But having an actual story this time around, and choosing to stay within that story for this game was a bold move, and it worked out really well, you know. Alright. I'm going to go over here real quick. Because I am turning off my Wii U. We're finished with Metroid Prime 3. We're finished with Metroid Prime 3. Which gives us enough time to watch the Metroid Prime Hunters video. It is by Triforce. He has 285k subscribers. Yet another Breath of the Wild retrospective on his channel. I recommend you check out his channel. He only has 88 videos. He made a the Metroid Prime Hunters video is like 1 month ago. And I think it covers like Metroid Prime 4 too, a little bit. So yeah, let me get over to this screen. Fuck you. You. Okay. Here we go. That should be it. Okay. This is his channel. And this is the video we're going to watch. It's 50 minutes long. The Mother retrospective is 4 hours, 14 minutes. Oh my god. But yeah, 88 videos only. But, you know, very, very well researched. And so far, I've loved what they put out. I don't want to assume their gender, obviously. But this is the video we're going to watch.
That doesn't get a lot of love.
And we're going to see how much we are going to watch. Intro, development. I want to hear a little bit about development. Hunters, control scheme, campaign is the longest. And multiplayer we're going to keep out. We're going to keep out multiplayer and conclusion. So we're going to watch around 38 minutes maybe, around that, of this.
This
we're going
is
to
a
react
story
to it.
about a Metroid game that doesn't get a lot of love, created by an often overlooked division of Nintendo. In the lead up to Metroid Prime 4, I felt like catching up on the Metroid videos that I still haven't made. And I always intended on covering this one. For once, I don't really feel like including much preamble to this video, other than that I think
the
it is
resolution.
important to shed light on games like Hunters, in addition to the heavy hitters, just to give the team that developed it a chance in the spotlight, and to figure out if an experimental technical showcase of the DS's capabilities still holds value today.
The resolution looks shit.
It does, with a few blemishes. This video is also sort of liminal, as I am currently in the process of moving, and this will be the last video I record and edit in the little room I've lived and worked out of for the past several years. I thought the last video created in this room would be the Mother retrospective, and I wrote it with that intention, but I had some free time to finish this, so here you go. I'm Triforce, and today I'm asking the question, was Metroid Prime Hunters any good?
Hopefully it
Metroid
was.
Prime Hunters was developed by the little-known subsidiary Nintendo Software Technology, or NST, in Redmond, Washington. Their offices opened in 1998.
Oh, it was developed in the US?
DigiPen Institute of Technology, with several doctorate-level instructors and graduates becoming some of the company's first employees.
Pretty
NST
cool.
is also located in close proximity to Nintendo of America's corporate offices, in the same business park. Since they were established, they developed several games, including Ridge Racer 64, Pokemon Puzzle League, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, and most recently, F-Zero 99. They've also
that's pretty
developed
decent.
multiple PSiWare games and applications, and provided development support for a few games as well. Though not quite as respected in their contributions to the medium as other Nintendo subsidiaries like Retro Studios in Austin, Texas, or Next Level Games in Vancouver, British Columbia, I still think NST fully deserves recognition for what they've accomplished.
Absolutely.
Of the games NST developed that actually saw release, Metroid Prime Hunters was probably their most high-profile endeavor, at least in my opinion. A demo of the game's multiplayer component was included with the Nintendo DS when it first launched in 2004.
Interesting.
It was a remarkable showcase for the system in all of its facets: graphics, audio, multiplayer, and control scheme. And it was following in the footsteps of the Metroid Prime series itself, which, along with Metroid Fusion, had revitalized Metroid and made it just as renowned as it was a decade prior. Metroid Prime Hunters had a lot to live up to. Development of the game was led by director Masamichi Abe, known for co-directing the first two Pikmin games at Nintendo EAD, and lead technical engineer Colin Reed. Both of them had worked together already on Pikmin and the original 1080 snowboarding, so this was a familiar collaboration for them. The original
Pretty
idea
sick.
for the game was conceived by producer Kensuke Tanabe, who produced the other Prime games as well. Originally, he wanted Retro Studios to develop the game after finishing Metroid Prime 2, but they were too busy to take the project on, so it ended up in NST's hands. Retro Studios did end up providing input in order to maintain continuity and fidelity with the Metroid series, and it helped to make Hunters feel very much like a Prime game in terms of atmosphere. I think you'll come to see why I feel that way as we go on. NST focused most of their time on the game's multiplayer mode. According to designer Richard Verodi, the hardware dictated their focus on the game's multiplayer mode, primarily due to the DS's much more accessible multiplayer capabilities than the GBA, Wi-Fi connectivity, and its built-in microphone allowing voice chat, at least in private lobbies. I imagine public lobbies with voice chat was something Nintendo wanted to avoid.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a
I
huge
can see that.
time to have the ability to be anywhere in the world, hop on public Wi-Fi, and talk shit to your friends while playing what is essentially an arena shooter in the Metroid universe. This became such a crucial element of the game that Nintendo further delayed it to its 2006 release date so that online multiplayer could be added. With multiplayer being the primary selling point, it's only natural that you might be wondering what that means for the game's single player.
It is a little
Today,
bit...
it remains the most accessible aspect of the game, as the only way to play online today is through custom servers, and in order to play local multiplayer, you need 3 other people in the same room as you with their own Nintendo DS or 3DS. That doesn't get you the full experience though, as download play only sends a certain amount of maps and other players can only play as Samus. Everyone needs to own the game if they want all of the maps, and to play as all of the other bounty hunters. Also, when the Wii U eShop was still active and you were still able to buy this game there, you wouldn't have been able to play the multiplayer at all. We'll talk more about the multiplayer much later in this video, as well as all of the modifications fans have developed that can enhance your experience there, and the ways in which the experience has been preserved. Honestly, it has never been easier to jump in and start playing,
Oh my
provided
god.
you have people to play with. For now, I want to examine the Metroid experience that was crafted from the concepts originally introduced for multiplayer, because even if I feel it has problems, it is very much a Metroid Prime game in spirit. Going into this video, I'm assuming you, as the viewer, have some prior experience with the Metroid series and the Prime
I'm not a
games.
good reactor,
If
by
you
the
don't,
way.
you can either go
I
play
wanna
them
wanna
yourself
listen to
and
this,
one-of-a-kind experiences, or
but
you can
I'm
watch
not very
other
good at
reviews on the
reacting.
games to familiarize yourself with them and gain some context for my discussion herein. With that out of the way, let's talk about the game.
Oh my god.
So, as you can see, this is my DS. I'm recording this on July 22nd, 2004.
Uh-huh.
Before making this video, I had never actually finished this game's single-player mode. I almost exclusively played the multiplayer in this game. I can think of a couple of reasons right off the bat for why I never finished it.
One thing,
even
it
after
already
all
gives
the
me a little bit of
reviews.
motion
First
sickness
of all, I grew tired of the boss fights in
because of the
though I
resolution.
didn't exactly remember why. Second, I remember pain. I remember getting searing pain in my hands and wrists from playing this game for too long. Because I always played multiplayer in short bursts, I didn't experience it as much there, but extended play sessions of a single-player first-person shooter with this control scheme proved to be quite strenuous on my hands and wrists. I'll expound on those things in due time. When you get to the intro cutscene, you'll be introduced to each of the new bounty hunters this game features. Each of them have their own origins, species, and special abilities, almost feeling as though they wanted to expand Metroid's universe far beyond just what we've seen in the main games. The basic premise is that the Federation receives a transmission from the Alembic solar system about an ultimate power. Samus is instructed to investigate and either safely retrieve this power, or, should that prove impossible, destroy it. This transmission is intercepted by the 6 other bounty hunters featured in the game's intro movie. Ironically, save for Sylix, none of the other bounty hunters ever appeared again in a Metroid game, and their home planets are never mentioned or explored further, even in this game. Still, having bounty hunters compete with Samus at all is an intriguing concept. We've only ever known of Samus, who, despite having the title bounty hunter, has largely done most of her work in this series for the benefit of the universe, even answering to the Federation, in spite of her reluctance to follow orders. It is a reflection of her nature, of course, but it always raised the question of whether or not there were other bounty hunters like her in this universe.
I mean, we know
This
that.
game gives us a glimpse into that. And before Metroid Prime 3 at that. First, there
Oh, it was before Metroid Prime 3. That's interesting, yeah. Because in Metroid Prime 3 we get a look at 3 new bounty hunters.
Some sort of neon-soaked, shiny, technological utopia. It's absolutely soaked in that 2000s vision for what a futuristic metropolis might look like. And on top of that, Weevil is apparently a cybernetically altered space pirate. The very same aliens that raided the series research station and the owners of the frigate Orpheon. That's some technology they've got their hands on. For supplementary info on these characters, all I really have to refer to is the instruction manual, as the game just sort of pits them against you. You can scan them, but that's all you're going to get as far as in-game details go. When it comes to Weevil, it is stated in the manual that he was badly injured in a fight with Samus, eventually being transformed into this cybernetically enhanced bounty hunter. Much like the SAX acting as a reflection of Samus after her mission to SR-388, Weevil stands as an embodiment of the space pirates she slaughtered in Metroid Prime, enacting their revenge. It's a great premise, and it pains me that we never learn more. Trace's intro is unsettling as you watch him rise above a swarm of countless Kraken beneath him, and the manual states that he will stop at nothing to obtain total supremacy to the Krakens. Not that Kraken. There's also Candon, who is shown escaping from an exploding lab in the intro. He was, quote, created to be the ultimate soldier, immortal and relentless.
Pretty
Apparently
cool.
So much so that not even the scientists that created him could control him. Spire is the last remaining member of the Daimons, which were ancient, silicon-based life forms, and he seeks this power primarily hoping that it would provide him with some answers to what happened to his race, seeing as the Alembic race has been lost to time as well. Noxus is a member of the proud Phazon race, and he seeks the power solely to prevent it from falling into the hands of lawbreakers or those he presumes unworthy. You'd think that he'd work with Samus in order to keep that power under control, but I don't think he wants it completely destroyed either. Then there's Sylix. In his intro, he effortlessly crushes a Federation soldier, representing the firm grudge he holds against them. He hates the Federation with a burning passion, and in turn, that means he hates Samus for working with them. That's all we really know about him as of this game. Though he's presented as an equal competitor for the ultimate power in this game, and he even has a gunship that he flies around in at certain points, he remains the one to hunt Samus down through Metroid Prime 3 and Federation Force. In Federation Force...
Oh, it was his ship. That's cool!
Rightfully so, the timing of that game couldn't have been worse. Sylix is seen stealing a Metroid hatchling. We can only hope Metroid Prime 4 sheds light on just who Sylix is, and why he has it out for the Federation. Only time will tell. Though the Hunters only get morsels of backstory for this game, I think the team banked on their presence in the game itself your encounters with them, and your mileage when
The
playing.
fact that
It kind of reminds me.
it was his ship at the end of Metroid Prime 3 makes me a little bit giddy, because this isn't coming out of left field. Like, the Hunters thing, like, doing the Hunters thing, the Metroid Prime Hunters connection doesn't come out of left field. It's, like, stated in Metroid Prime 3 that this is what's happening, that Silex is following Samus at the end of 3. So, at least story-wise, they're going to connect to Metroid Prime 3, which I love.
Me of how fighting game characters are portrayed. Sure, you'll be fed bits and pieces of the lore through their interactions with other characters, as well as the way they look and fight, but you usually have to play the game's single-player offerings and hope they have any substantial insight. And even then, you might not be able to piece it all together yourself. This game doesn't have any of that though, so all you can really do is go off of what is presented to you, and your experience playing as them and fighting against them. And to be honest, that's where I really come to admire the Hunters. Throughout the single-player adventure, you will be ambushed by the other Hunters in both scripted and completely random instances as you move from room to room. While not always as deliberate as the scripted encounters in Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion, it is a pretty awesome way to make you feel like you're being hunted throughout the game, which was a continued effort at this point in the series. The way these Hunters just appear as you attempt to traverse each planet creates a welcome atmosphere of uncertainty.
That's
that the
pretty
previous
dope.
games strove to create, especially considering the somewhat cumbersome structure of this game, but we'll get to that. Much like Samus's Morph Ball and bombs, each Hunter has their own alternate form, and their own special attack in that form. I love the way Trace creepily crawls around in his alternate form, and I'm always freaked out when he jumps at me. He's fast and aggressive. Weevil can place a turret in his alternate form and attack you independently of it. Silex can move incredibly fast and chain his electric bombs together. Candon slithers around like a bug and lays bombs as he goes. Spire can roll into you like an unstoppable boulder, and Noxus can turn himself into a Beyblade. All of these things, in addition to the fact that they use
That is pretty dope.
Samus can find across the game in single player, serve to accentuate the game's focus on first-person shooter gameplay. In the other Prime games up to this point, and excluding Prime 3, aiming was never really a factor. You'd lock onto an enemy and circle strafe around them as you'd fight. You'd still need to think about which weapons you wanted to use to deal with them efficiently, but the game was deliberately far more about exploration and problem-solving than it was about being a shooter. Hunters,
That is
on the other
true
hand,
somewhat.
uses a unique control scheme that I'm sure you've at least heard about, even if you haven't played the game. While there is an alternate control scheme that allows you to move with the D-pad and aim with the face buttons, or vice versa, it is not as accurate or reliable as the primary setup. Your non-dominant hand is used to move and shoot with Samus, while your dominant hand is used for basically everything else, all on the touchscreen. Your Morph Ball form, switching to your missiles, switching between weapons, and most importantly, looking around. Aiming is done exclusively through the touchscreen, and it does allow you to be quite accurate with your shots once you get the hang of it. Hunters on its own is a massive technical achievement and showcase for the DS's capabilities, and its control scheme was not only necessary for the game, it was also born from a period of intense innovation for Nintendo. Soon after, Metroid Prime 3 came out on the Wii, and it too reinvented the way first-person shooters could be played. In Prime 3, you had both the lock-on technique from previous games, and you could aim independently and shoot smaller targets, or weak points, which the game's enemies and bosses took advantage of. The control scheme was so liberating that it became the standard for Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Wii. Metroid Prime Hunters allows you to physically place your stylus over the enemy you'd like to shoot, and much like Prime 3 with shooters on the Wii, it laid the foundation for other first-person games on the DS. Today, it is easy for it to be viewed as nothing more than an experiment, a relic of a bygone era.
Honestly,
the landscape for games was much different back then.
if I could stomach
I
it,
think that had the game been made today,
having to play it with
contemporary
mouse,
hardware, it would have used a standardized control scheme, dual analog stick controls, gyro aiming, or a keyboard and mouse. Something along those lines. But this game wasn't made today, and it probably wouldn't have been made today. This game exists precisely
Probably
because
not.
of the Nintendo DS, and it's important to remember that. Sure, fans have made their own modifications to the game to incorporate keyboard and mouse controls, providing people with a far more accessible way of playing it, but I wanted to investigate if these controls have any merit on their own, or if they were merely a relic that should remain buried. So for this video, I pretty much exclusively used the touchscreen. Whether it was in single player or multiplayer, I was using my DS to record. I played around with other control schemes for sure, like the face buttons, the mouse mod, and
Yeah, it
even a
seems-
weird dual stick config I set up in an emulator. But ultimately, I found the stylus on an actual DS touchscreen to be the most reliable way to play this game.
Interesting.
Incidentally, Kid Icarus Uprising would use this control scheme 6 years later, and it proved to be an excellent way to play a rail shooter, just as the Wii Remote served them well in games like Sin and Punishment. In Uprising, the stylus allowed you to just physically move over your targets, much like Prime Hunters. Both games are proof that the setup is worthwhile. What I've realized in playing them, however, is that it isn't the control scheme itself that is unreliable, it's our own fleshy human hands. Perhaps it was because I had smaller hands,
Yeah.
back then, or more likely it was because I'd only extensively
That's the
played
problem. I get
multiplayer
hand cramps
mode,
easily,
but
so I
I've
couldn't
seldom
do it.
experienced pain playing
So I
this
probably
game.
would have like keyboard and mouse
Matches in public
controls
lobbies typically
mod
only
or
last between
something.
5 to 7 minutes, and you get to rest your hands in between matches.
You know?
In single player, though, I was usually playing for a long period of time, and that's where the cramps really started to set in. Any vague memories of pain I had trying to play the single player before came rushing back to me in vivid detail.
Oh.
I know the intent with most portable games is to play them while on the move, so you usually only have time for brief sessions anyway, but I feel like they must have caught this in testing, right? Or have we just been holding our DS the wrong way this whole time? Either that, or testing sessions were designed around people only playing for 15 minutes at a time. I don't know. Maybe they just figured it was a necessary evil and shipped the game anyway. Something that I learned after making my retrospective on the Wii was, while the console was accessible to those that didn't normally play video games, it also alienated quite a few other people, either due to them preferring a traditional controller, or because they physically could not play for one reason or another. Ultimately, we now have options. Options for gyro aiming, options for traditional controllers, options for adaptive
That's
controllers,
true,
and
yeah.
options drive accessibility. It's easy to pick on a control scheme like this today, but I would consider its utility worthwhile enough to not warrant its downfall, especially in the context of its release. Its downfall comes with it being the only way to play the game, especially if players have physical difficulty adapting to it, and thankfully, fans have developed other ways to play. But let's look beyond the control scheme for a moment. Because it is such a huge barrier of entry for people, it often clouds any discussion of what this game does right. And Metroid Prime Hunters left a great first impression on me, right down to the menu music.
That is pretty sick.
Much like Metroid Prime 2's electric guitar in its menu, Prime Hunters does an awesome job of getting you pumped to play the game through the series' trademark instrumentation, and believe it or not, this game's soundtrack was not composed by Kenji Yamamoto, composer for most other Metroid games. It was brought to us by Lawrence Schwedler and James Phillipson at NST, who did an excellent job throughout this game in emulating his style of composing for Metroid Prime. From the moment you step foot in the Celestial Archives, the ambience is almost skin-crawling. Listen to that low humming, that diegetic sound that seems to evoke the high-tech equipment of the station, but then the strings and choir come in, and you just feel unsettled. It reminds me heavily of Jerry Goldsmith's score for Alien, but I'm sure you've heard me talk about all the similarities between Alien and Metroid long enough by now. The introduction to this game heavily reminds me of the introductions to the first two Prime games, where Samus stumbles upon unspeakable carnage that took place just moments before she arrived. You scan the space pirates and the fallen Federation soldiers, and you just have this indescribable feeling that you're next. In Hunters, however, you know you're not alone, according to the transmission from your ship at the beginning of the game. So every single moment that passes before a hunter shows up just creates more and more dread. The atmosphere of Prime Hunters altogether is impeccable. A lot of care and attention to detail was placed into making Hunters feel like an authentic entry in the Prime lineage. Though Elenos and Arcterra borrow heavily from Chozo Ruins and Phendrana Drifts respectively, each planet in the Alimbic cluster has its own flavor, and by scanning artifacts and lore in each area, you'll learn that these planets are the remnants of what was once a highly advanced society that fell victim to something called Gorya. Though there is some advanced technology left to rot in this solar system, the planets are largely left in ruin, with almost nothing even resembling civilization left over.
Oh.
Maybe this is a product of the hardware, but the claustrophobic rooms in this game make it feel even more isolating and hopeless. The music evolves as you make your way further into each planet. Elenos initially has traces of the elements of Chozo Ruins' theme, and a bit of Magmor Caverns to symbolize the occasional lava. But as you revisit the
This
planet
looks like a
with the
very
sound of
different...
death, it sounds much more dead and menacing.
Like a very different take on it. Because it feels like this is more of a traditional...
Arcterra creates an inversion of this. When you first arrive, it is bone-chillingly quiet.
Metroid Prime
You hear the wind whistle
series
through the hole
is
as you explore.
way slower, usually. And it doesn't have those claustrophobic rooms that you need to
On
explore.
your second
It
visit,
has
you'll be exploring the depths.
relatively
That's
clear
where you'll start
room
to hear
connections, you
Phendrana
know?
Drifts come in, though the melody is altered and played in a minor key, in an attempt to differentiate Arcterra
On one point I would
from
like
how
to play
calm
it.
Phendrana could feel. Phendrana had a whole ecosystem still functioning upon Samus's arrival, but Arcterra is nothing but the scattered, dead fragments of a once thriving planet.
It is pretty
Then
cool,
there's Vesper
though.
Defense Outpost. Holy crap. At first, it doesn't seem like anything too remarkable, it's just littered with a lot of high
It's also like
and
you're
still
gaining a lot of
functional
verticality
equipment, but it's your
too,
second visit
which
where
you
things
don't really
get
do
weird.
in Metroid Prime without
The
like
area's
slowly
initial
making
theme
your
is
way up
funky
to somewhere, you know?
groove, but as soon as you reach the Guardian Chambers, it turns into this. As you
Ooh.
wander around the chambers examining the guardians that have been frozen away, and you even spot
It feels more like a game like
Your
Doom.
ears are filled with these ghastly
Or-
drums and industrial noises that wouldn't be out of place in something like Silent Hill. The music here is an extension of the game's atmosphere, really.
What is
The
it? Doom,
quiet
Quake, you
the
know, like
uncertainty of the celestial
that kind of
outcasts, or the
gameplay.
curiosity of Elenos,
It feels a little bit
like
faster
guardians
too.
or even other hunters can strike from anywhere at any time. The entire
Obviously, they made it a lot faster
is a
too for
continuation of the kind
multiplayer,
of design
obviously.
that Metroid Fusion exhibited, in which you are constantly second-guessing whether or not you are truly alone, and whether or not something will be around the corner. The majority of this game is spent exploring and fighting like in any other Metroid game. There's energy tanks, missile tanks, and even ammo expansions for your various other weapons, obtainable throughout the game. However, as I've mentioned, at certain points throughout the game, you'll be interrupted and ambushed by the other bounty hunters. These can sometimes be scripted events, but other times you'll run into them at random. This atmosphere of uncertainty serves to differentiate Prime Hunters from the other.
Oh, that is
games in
pretty
the Prime
cool.
series,
That is
and it
something that I
also
would
offers
love
a
for
bridge to the
Metroid Prime
game's multiplayer, due to
4.
the arenas you'll often find yourself in. All of this game's multiplayer maps are woven into the single-player level design, as each of them are designed like arenas in the event of a hunter encounter. Whether you're fighting Silex in the Vesper Defense Outpost, or Spire and Elenos, the levels are designed like multiplayer battle arenas, and the gameplay quickly shifts into a Quake or Unreal Tournament adjacent rush of first-person combat, with the only difference being that you're fighting computer-controlled hunters in the campaign. I gotta be honest, that seamless feeling on its own makes the game really impressive.
That is pretty
The game
cool.
also goes the extra mile in creating a rich atmosphere in line with the Metroid series. All the while, it moves the series forward, honoring the direction Fusion took with its own lovable twist.
I would love it if
This
Metroid Prime
seamlessness
4
extends to the
got
weapons
into
you
that
find
vein
throughout the
too,
game.
you know?
Much like the beams in the other Metroid games like the Wave Beam or Ice Beam, Samus can find alternate weapons that have their own advantages and disadvantages depending on the situation. I don't care to remember all of their names because they're color-coded, so I'm gonna call them by their colors. It's easier to remember their effects that way anyway. The orange one shoots an exploding projectile similar to the grenade launcher in Quake. The blue weapon shoots a beam of electricity that latches onto its user like Witch Bolt in Dungeons & Dragons. The red beam is essentially the same as the railgun in Quake. The purple beam can ricochet off of other surfaces. You get the idea. It not only gives everyone an even playing field by allowing them to collect all these weapons, but it also injects more variety into each fight, so that each player isn't just playing as the same character with a different morph ball form. I don't think they're huge game changers like the beams and their upgrades in the original Metroid Prime, with those beams' utility being clearly defined and allowing for some unique solutions in combat. You also have to remember that these weapons were designed around the multiplayer first, so they were meant to be seamlessly integrated into the campaign. That being said, because they are this game's primary upgrades, they do take a lot of the excitement away from progressing through the game.
I can see that,
Sure,
yeah.
they can be powerful, but they don't hold a candle to the kind of gameplay that the Wave Beam, Ice Beam, or Plasma Beam enabled in Metroid Prime. On top of that, Samus doesn't gain any new suits in this game, like the Gravity Suit or Dark and Light suits, or the Grapple Beam, or the Power Bomb, or Super Missiles. This means that a lot of your exploration is only gated by the doors you open with specific weapons. From what I can remember, I didn't ever have to use my weapons for unique applications like you would with the items I mentioned in previous Metroid games. This removes significant layers to Metroid's gameplay loop, and most of the level design is entirely based around unique problems tuned to Samus's innate abilities. For the most part, this works. When playing through the game, you can feel the loss of those layers to the Metroid formula, but the game is still fun and worthwhile to explore despite that. That said, this also leads to them going into some very strange territory. The structure of this game is kind of repetitive to begin with. Although it starts out alright, with each planet being completely different from the last in your hunt for the 8 octoliths, you eventually have to return to each planet once more to collect 3 relics, which will open the path to another octolith. While you are taken to new areas, as mentioned earlier with Arctera's creepy guardian chambers and whatnot, the very notion of doing this introduces its own problems. First of all, with each octolith, you'll have to fight a boss. I love the way the boss arenas look. They remind me of a similar area from Metroid Prime 3. The first 2 bosses you encounter are simple, but alright on their own. The first one is just a spinning tower that fires lasers and lights up its weak points, and you have to shoot them before you can expose the core briefly. Harmless, if a bit drawn out. The second boss feels like you're fighting a Combine Advisor from Half-Life 2, though you can only draw it out by shooting the tentacles that give it power. A step up from the last boss, for sure. The next boss is... okay, it's a rehash. Surely the next one will be different, right? Uh-oh. The game recycles the same 2 bosses for each of the 8 octoliths you collect.
Oh no.
Granted, they introduce new attacks each time, like the way Slench here chases you around the arena, but it does not curb the repetition in the slightest. And for a game series that I believe prides itself on its boss encounters like Ridley and Kraid, this is hugely disappointing. I guess I'd be more forgiving if I enjoyed the bosses more, but even then, I don't think I'd enjoy them enough to fight them 4 times each. Moreover, remember how I mentioned some of their ideas had to be contingent on Samus's core abilities, since you didn't unlock any real items or upgrades this time? Well, some of their challenges are bizarre. In the upper levels of the Celestial Archives, you have to navigate around platforms that can send you into the cold depths of space. If you fall here, it means instant death. To my knowledge, Metroid has never done this because death is always treated as the ultimate punishment. Because your only checkpoints are save stations that you have to manually save at. And
Yeah.
it makes the threat of the SAX even more terrifying, and it heightens the uncertainty and discomfort in pretty much every Metroid game. It's why ink ribbons are such a cool mechanic in Resident Evil. You can only create a safe haven to return to a finite number of times there. Even when a Metroid game has in-depth platforming challenges, your punishment for messing up is either a loss of progress or health, if you fall in lava or acid, for example. In Hunters, when you fall out of bounds here, you just get sent to your most recent checkpoint, which means right as you entered that room, either from a door or a portal. It completely destroys any immersion to make a single mistake in platforming, and just have Samus die. The Morph Ball sections in Alanos that have instant death traps in them are also a bizarre design choice for the same reasons.
That is
Metroid Prime
interesting.
Hunters doesn't actually have any save stations, instead relying on these checkpoints if the player dies, which makes the game much easier and less tense than any other Metroid game. To be fair, with the frequent encounters with hunters in this game, I understand this approach to an extent, but their implementations in the challenges I outlined earlier is a bit strange. Speaking of the Celestial Archives, the upper levels here have this puzzle centered around teleporters, which I have mixed feelings about. Imagine a Metroid game where you have to memorize portals that take you to disconnected parts of the map. It's like that one chapter just before reaching Zen and Half-Life.
It could be cool. It
with
could
much
be really
less
cool.
guidance in its level design. It's basically just a memory game. Sure, it's true to the labyrinthine nature of Metroid itself, but it's much too confusing for me to enjoy piecing it together. To balance this discussion out, there are some genuinely brilliant moments in Prime Hunters' problem solving. In Arc Terra, there is a giant force field that prevents you from reaching the other portion of the level right away. You're meant to realize, perhaps in a moment of desperation, that you can scan the portal through the force field to activate it, just as you would any other warp point from Samus's gunship, meaning that you can just return to your ship to continue onward from the part of the level that you previously could not reach, even disabling the force field from there. This is a much better example of how portals are utilized in this game and the game's puzzle design altogether. The depths of the Vesper defense outpost ask you to rush between points as fast as possible with just Samus's abilities and your memorization of the area's layout. There are genuinely great moments throughout Prime Hunters, and I don't mean to generalize when discussing its problem solving. The artifact collecting can lead you to some new and wonderful areas that became some of my favorite parts of the entire game. It's just that they also led to some of my least favorite parts too. One final negative note I have about this game's campaign, though, is its utilization of escape sequences. After collecting the first Octolith in the Celestial Archives, you are tasked with escaping to your gunship. In other Metroid games, this would mean because the place is about to explode or something. But no, the Celestial Archives remain intact after you escape to your gunship. Worse yet, the game has an escape sequence every time you collect an Octolith. So for every single Octolith, you need to run all the way back to your ship due to the planet's security protocol initiating. And you visit each planet twice. I'm fairly certain the only reason they have these sequences is to force players into fighting certain hunters that they might have avoided before, as well as just to pad out the game. Otherwise, players would run to the nearest warp point they've set up and just head for the next planet. These escape sequences also demonstrate inconsistency in the portals that you can set up around each planet. Like I just mentioned, you can set up warp points at 2 major points in each level, but during the escape sequence, these warp points will be inactive, for some unexplained reason. Apparently only certain portals lose power though, because the ones that are necessary to escape, like in the Celestial Archives, still function. It makes the whole thing feel contrived. I love Metroid's escape sequences, but they are used sparingly for a reason. To make you value your upgrades when at the beginning of the game, and to remind you that even after conquering the game's final boss, you're still not done. They're everywhere here, and they water down a staple of Metroid that used to feel
Yeah, I
so
feel like
powerful
an escape
into something
sequence
that
needs
makes
to be
you roll my
used
eyes
sparingly.
every time.
That is something that I have held often. I wish we would have had one in Metroid Prime 3, honestly. The Metroid Prime 2 escape sequence felt lackluster. I don't know, it's a little bit weird, you know? But yeah, I like my escape sequences sometimes. It's just, I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's just... Sometimes it's good to have them, and sometimes it's not good to have them. And I feel like at the end of the Metroid game, there needs to be one, you know?
All of
But
this
not
serves
that
as
much.
More evidence of this game's single player being mostly an afterthought by design, built from the assets and ideas developed for the multiplayer. Aesthetically and atmospherically, it is beautiful. And there is still fun to be had. I don't want to discredit their work entirely. But these problems make Metroid Prime Hunters' single-player adventure one of the weakest core Metroid experiences I've had. I'm not saying it's bad, hell no. but its execution was certainly shaky. To be fair, I feel the repetitious elements of this game, as well as some of the measures taken to extend the campaign's runtime, could have been due to the DS's inherent limitations, and to the team's credit, they did all that they could to flesh out this campaign. Even with its more obvious band-aid solutions, it is still a remarkable effort when it gets things right.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's talk about the final boss, though. After navigating the final area, you'll be face to face with Gorya, who skewers the other hunters effortlessly. Gorya sent out that distress signal itself at the beginning of the game, just to lure the hunters to its location. The Alembic log entries also warn of Gorya's destructive power throughout the game. The boss forces you to attack with the weapon that is weak to whatever weapon it happens to be using, and when using them, it demonstrates a wide array of its own unique attacks. On its own, the boss is a lot of fun. A great way to round out a game focused on these weapons, and an ultimate test of skill. But it's what happens after defeating the boss that matters. Gorya explodes, killing Samus and the hunters with it.
What?
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 So apparently, because this game doesn't have any additional rewards for players beating it quickly or with 100% completion like other Metroid games, instead the true ending is unlocked by scanning and completing the Alembic Prophecy, as it hints at what you need to do, mentioning each weapon in a specific order. The final area also strongly attempts to signal the correlation between your weapon colors and the colors of the panels in Gorya's boss arena. This is all meant to convey that you shoot the panels in that room in a specific order to ensure that you can truly defeat Gorya and escape with your life. Yeah, so unlike the other Prime games, Metroid Prime Hunters makes scanning the environment a requirement if you don't want an ending that sucks. The pieces of the Alembic Prophecies can be scanned both at gateways to each planet where you land your gunship, and in specific locations throughout the game. While
I mean, it is kind of cool,
proper ending behind
but
it is a bit silly. I must admit, I am a bit of a sucker for cryptic puzzles like this. It's annoying when you can't solve them on your own and you feel stumped.
you know, if you
But they are incredible.
if you like puzzles like this, please play La Mulana, because seriously, that is the La Mulana player in me that likes this kind of shit. But yeah, it is very cryptic, and I would rage at it, and obviously I would go back and stuff to get everything. Obviously,
Incredibly satisfying to piece together yourself. You can blame the original Zelda and games like Tunic for me being this way. Either way, Gorya's second phase grants you access to the Omega Cannon, which means that you will be blasting away at the boss with an all-powerful combination of the weapons you collect throughout the game, while also bouncing and weaving between platforms in a vertical map that is begging for a multiplayer deathmatch right away. It's as if the longest yard from Quake 3 Arena was stacked vertically. Of course, this map is available in the multiplayer as well. Either way, with Gorya defeated, Samus is able to escape with her life, and the spirits of the Alembic race thank her as she flees. Oh, and the hunters survive too. There's still hope in seeing them again someday. I will admit, Metroid Prime Hunters' campaign is not going to satisfy fans that come to the series for emergent gameplay, or sequence breaks, or even upgrade-based progression, really. However, it executes the sense of atmosphere made famous in Metroid Prime beautifully, all while offering a seamless integration of the gameplay that the multiplayer component offers in a single-player context.
at one point we might
has
play
some
it.
serious flaws that some may find unforgivable, but I do not consider my time to have been wasted with it. Just from how much I've had to say about it, you can probably see that there is value in experiencing it. Who knows? You might see something in it that I didn't. That should be the major takeaway from a video like this. If the game interests you, no matter what I perceive as strengths or faults, you should try it out for yourself and form an opinion. Speaking of which, I did also mention that a lot of the game was beholden to its multiplayer components, so let's talk about it. Incidentally, this is where I spent most of my time with this game.
Alright, I think, yeah, that's where we're going to end after the campaign ends. It's a very short campaign, but yeah. Let me get this straight right here. Because I don't want to listen to the multiplayer stuff. I'll watch the video on my own, obviously. But what I wanted to get is the introduction of the Hunters, obviously. Like, I wanted to know about the Hunters and what they represent, obviously, and the story in Metroid Prime Hunters. Because Metroid Prime 4 seems to connect heavily to it, you know. At least we saw Psylocke already. So, I'm hoping that was a good look into Metroid Prime Hunters. We have finished Metroid Prime 3 today. Super cool, super satisfying. I'm so happy that we managed to do so, and yeah, tomorrow we're playing Luigi's Mansion 1. It releases tomorrow on the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube app. So we're going to play it there on a legitimate GameCube controller. So be ready for that. And after Luigi's Mansion, we're going to play something that is a little bit of a surprise on Halloween Day. So on the 31st, we're playing something else. And on Saturday, I don't know yet. I'll play something that's still on my list. And next week, we're going to introduce some new games into the mix because Metroid Prime is finished. We still have about 1 month left until Metroid Prime 4 releases. So we still have about 1 month to play a game in that time slot to finish out, you know. So, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And if you want to see more on Metroid, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll probably play Metroid 2 again. I'm going to give Metroid 2 another shot at one point. And we're going to play Metroids, Super Metroids, the other Metroid games, obviously. Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, what was it again? Maybe we'll even play Other M at one point, but yeah, that's going to be in the stars. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see all of you next time. Trilightning out.